Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine, though. I gotta give a disclaimer. Compound media hangovers seem to linger for quite a long time, right? Trying to drink that much stuff than that guy. How much stuff can that guy drink? That guy drinks more whiskey than what should even be consumed by a mere mortal in one day.
Well, you know what, man? You hung in there with Gino. And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about right off the bat, Dan and our good friend Mike Bichetti hosted the Dump, the afternoon show that kind of leads the way into Gino's In Hot Water show that starts around 2:15. And you and Bichetti did a great job, man. I watched the whole thing. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch it live, but I went back and watched it on demand on Compound Media. And Dan, it was freaking hilarious. You and Bichetti did a great job. I really hope that that they give you guys another shot at that eventually. And I want to give a shout out to the great Steve Conti from Compound Media, because everyone was saying that he was the one, Bobby Tamburo and everybody was saying that Steve really pushed to have you and Bichetti back together. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool that there was some people inside, but yeah, more importantly, about when I was eating the pizza on air. I have to admit I would have liked that they would have brought it before the show, because I kind of want to like eating on air, because I feel that leaves the door open for horrible photoshops.
It definitely do that.
I'm just glad it was a pizza, not a corn dog. That would have been worse.
The old O&A fans and Compound Media fans, they would definitely not let that one slide.
yeah, exactly. I was thinking of once trying to pull a prank by getting the whole corn dogs, but they kind of wised up on the prank.
But yeah, man, absolute blast watching you and Bichetti do your thing. That was really great, and let's just hope that Compound Media has more stuff like that in the works, because that definitely got a great response from a lot of people. And then you and Bichetti sitting in with Gino, that was brilliant too. You guys must have had a great time.
Yeah, it went great. I have to say though, I don't want to, I don't like bringing up the subject matter, but if I get picked up on anything on the network, I'm bringing you along.
I appreciate that, buddy. I really do. That's why you're the best co-host. And but I also have told you always from the beginning that I would never give you a problem or anything with doing anything with Compound Media or Eastside Dave or anything like that, because I'm just as big a fan as you are.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, this is like the first time I've been like a full-fledged literally part of a show, like literally officially like part of the show. So I feel like you got to be on board with this, and the Best Seat in the House brand will become, if things worked out that way, the Best Seat in the House would become a national brand worldwide.
There you go, just like from Step Brothers, prestige worldwide. But yeah, Dan, so we got a lot to get into today. And but actually one more thing on Compound Media before we moved on. I don't know if you heard, Dan, but Garrett from Compound Media, the great Garrett over there, does a show called TBD that he's been doing since back in the days with Pat Dixon. And the guy that he's been doing the show with for the last, ever since Pat got fired last year, so at least for the last year, has been Donavan, a.k.a. Cripp Daddy, who is a hilarious comedian who's in a wheelchair and very, very funny guy. Unfortunately, Donovan passed away this weekend while Garrett was away on his honeymoon in Germany and everything. So I just wanted to pass along my condolences to Cripp Daddy and his family. And Dan, were you familiar with any of his work as well?
I was a little bit from the stuff he does on the show. Was probably maybe all I really got to see. I've never personally met the guy, but he gives me the vibe that he was probably a good guy, and I imagine him and Garrett were really close. So it's got to be tough on Garrett. It's got to be tough on the guy's family. It's a huge loss for everyone at Compound Media, and my condolences to him and his family. And it's just a tough loss. It's the first time we've seen a host on the network pass away.
Yeah, it's true. That's true, man. And yeah, definitely wanted to remember Donovan here because very funny guy. If you get a chance, check his stuff out. He actually just had an album come out in July, I believe. So if you get the chance, pick that album up, maybe donate to his family. There's a GoFundMe. I'm sure, actually, now that I think about it, I'll include the link to that in the description of this episode. So absolutely prayers for the family of Cripp Daddy and for Cripp Daddy himself. So best of luck to everybody, and including Garrett. Hopefully, TBD keeps going because that was a very funny show as well. And with that said, now that we got all the heavy lifting out of the way, Dan, we got some pretty big news jumping out here right out of the bat. Actually, we were going to open up with football anyway, but one of the things that is just popping up right now is one of the stories of Jets training camp so far. Well, I wouldn't say so far for the entire time, but at least for the last week or two, has been wide receiver Corey Davis has been missing. He had some kind of personal issue that he was taking some time to resolve. The word around the beat with the Jets beat writers and people that cover the team was that it's nothing really to worry about. Well, if you're a Jets fan, you're starting to worry a little bit right now because breaking news, Jets wide receiver Corey Davis suddenly retires from the NFL, leaving his $10 million final year of his contract on the table with the Jets. So this is one of the rare times where we see an athlete at 28 years old call it a career and leave big money on the table. I don't know about you, but I was shocked by this, Dan.
Yeah, that has got to be shocking for every Jets fan. Now there's potentially a hole at wide receiver left this close to the season. It's bad enough this guy's retired, but he made the decision to retire so close to the season. It's now raising a big question on the Jets season now.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. That's the thing that I don't really understand is that because the word is as soon as the announcement came from Corey Davis, the word from all the guys covering the team was that the Jets were aware of this and that they hadn't told anybody, like they didn't tell the fans, they didn't tell the media to keep, and obviously Corey Davis deserves his privacy. But the question I have is just what you said. So if the Jets knew about this and they knew that there was a decent chance that they could have a big gaping hole in their wide receiver room now, I'm surprised they didn't do more to bring in another receiver over the summer. Obviously they swung and missed on Odell Beckham in the offseason. He ended up going to the Baltimore Ravens for more money. To be honest, I'm kind of glad the Jets didn't commit, $18 million or whatever it ended up being to Odell, because it was $10 million for Corey Davis. So, I think that the Jets really, really got to find somebody. And to be honest, at this point, just like you alluded to, Dan, there's really not that much out there. I'm seeing Ty Hilton. I'm seeing Julio Jones. And a lot of these guys are either not that talented or just broken down at this point in their career. So it's going to be a big theme over the next 3 weeks really until opening night for the Jets, at least on Monday Night Football. It's going to be a big theme of who are they bringing in, because there's a couple of pieces like Jason Brownlee, who's a receiver that Jet fans are probably going to see a lot more of over the next couple of weeks. And a couple of these other guys on the roster that, you really didn't think had a chance to make the team. Well, hey, if you're one of these young guys, now's the time to step up, right, Dan? I mean, take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah. Now this season's on the question mark of being a year that's going to either be in contention or a year that's a building block year to next year now. And unfortunately, the Jets had all off season. They knew this was going to possibly happen, and they were asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, if everything we've been told so far is true, then yeah, I kind of agree with you that the Jets were asleep at the wheel. If they knew that this Corey Davis leaving the NFL was a possibility, that they definitely should have at least had some kind of contingency plan in place. But hey, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Unfortunately, on August 23rd, Corey Davis decided to call it a career, and now for the Jets, it's all about figuring it out from here. Now it's going to be Jets versus Giants at MetLife Stadium on a Saturday night, 6 p.m. Final preseason game for both teams. The Jets are treating it as a dress rehearsal where they're actually going to be playing their starters. Most of their starters on defense will play. Most of their starters, including Aaron Rodgers, is going to be starting his first preseason action since 2018. The Giants are going to sit all their starters because the Giants took the opportunity to play them last week, which we'll get into in a minute. But, what do you think about that, Dan? As a Giant fan, you see the Jets throwing all their big guys out there. As a Giants fan, are you feeling like, hey, I want to throw our top guys out there too? Or are you happy that Brian Daboll is taking the more conservative approach of, let's save our bullets for the regular season?
I think for the regular season may have been a better approach at this. I mean, I want to injure these guys in a preseason game like this, a meaningless preseason game. I get the Jets maybe were taking this seriously, maybe wanting to win, but the real game is between the Giants and the Jets is happening sometime in October. This one is just a throwaway game. As a matter of fact, I gotta say something about the way they're handling the sign regarding the broadcasting of this game. Because I noticed that this preseason game, of course, is being broadcasted on a Channel 4, the NBC affiliate here in New York. There's a little scheduling conflict between that because NBC also has the rights to some NASCAR Sprint Cup Series races. I meant NASCAR Cup Series, not called Sprint Cup, called Cup Series now. NASCAR Cup Series race. And this race that's being broadcasted that's supposed to happen Saturday night here in the New York area is being joined in progress. And I feel they could have put this game on since it's just a preseason game, they could have put it on a different network or something if people really wanted to watch it, because a lot of TV people some people are gonna turn on a ton of TV wanting to watch the race. They're not gonna be able to. They're gonna realize this, and not everyone has access to like a Peacock or knows how to use the NBC Sports app to try to watch the race in its entirety.
Yeah, that's true. I think, though, that part of the reason for that, because you'd think most of the time, if it's a preseason game, they would just stick it on Peacock because, realistically, who cares, you know? But I think part of the thing is that they know that this game has a little bit of juice to it now. You know, I think for the Jets, under most circumstances, I would be very, very nervous as a Jets fan right now. I mean, let's be honest. I've seen 2 Jets seasons get flushed down the toilet because of preseason injuries to our quarterback against the Giants. 2003, Chad Pennington messed his shoulder up, missed the first 6 games. By the time he was back, the season was over. They had nobody to replace him. And then 10 years later, 2013, Rex Ryan brilliantly decided to bring back Mark Sanchez in the 4th quarter against the Giants in the preseason. Yes, this is an actual thing that happened because he wanted to win the Snoopy Bowl, and boom, injury to Mark Sanchez. See you later. Season over. He's gone for the year. Both seasons were ultimately destroyed by preseason injuries against the Giants. The Jets cannot let that happen again, and I don't think this isn't going to be a reckless thing for the Jets. I actually agree with what Saleh and Rodgers have decided, because you know what the fact of the matter is that they changed that. This isn't even the playing surface that Rodgers has played in on here before. You know, obviously he's been in the league since 2005. This stadium's been in existence since 2011, so he's played here before. But this is going to be his first time as a Jet, the first time behind this offensive line, which the Jets really want to see, you know, what this offensive line looks like. And it's finally for them starting to come together. Last night, Dwayne Brown, the Jets left tackle who had shoulder surgery in the offseason, was activated off the PUP list, which is the physically unable to perform list. He returned to practice. Now, you know, the Jets got another big thing with Mekhi Becton playing great on the offensive line on the right side, the right tackle spot. You know, now Connor McGovern at center, Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard, and you know, then you have the kid from the Niners. What was his name? Whatever his name. He stunk last year, but he's back in now too. Tomlinson, so he's in there now too. And on the left side, they're not going to have Dwayne Brown there on Saturday against the Giants because he just got back, so he's not going to be ready in time. But it'll be Billy Turner or somebody like that. And the big thing for this is they're probably only going to have the guys play a series or two, and it's just to get their feet wet. And you know what? As crazy as it is, and if it was me, I would have done this last week against Tampa Bay. I wouldn't have done it against the Giants this week, mostly because we play the Giants in the regular season. But you know, hey, they're going to do this right now, and you know, it's going to make this game must see, especially for Jet fans. I know it's a Giants home game, but there's going to be a lot of green in there, and I don't blame Giant fans for selling those tickets because the Giant fan is probably like, okay, let's get ready for the regular season now. You know, this is the preseason's over, and the Jet fan just wants to see Aaron Rodgers and this team out there for the first rep. So I get it. But I did want to move on to your Giants. I mean, obviously we're talking about it right now, but Dan, you got to see your quarterback come out last week for the first time this preseason, and he looked really good. Daniel Jones, his first preseason action against the Carolina Panthers last week. The Giants ended up winning that game 21-19, but the final score doesn't matter at all, as the big thing is that Daniel Jones went out there and went 8 for 9, 69 yards and a touchdown. Dan, what did you like that you saw out of your quarterback so far?
I think he just looked good and ready for the season, and I feel like Daniel Jones is ready to kick things up a notch to that next level. We saw them show that he can play he can be a quarterback on a contending team. He can win a playoff game. I think the next thing is to try to advance further in the playoffs. I feel is the next thing. It's gonna be NFC Championship game or bust, I feel like, this year.
Well, look, I don't blame you for having that high a bar. You should think that way. You should think that way. The Giants should have. I mean, look, you won a playoff game last year, then obviously you lost to the Eagles, but you got there. I mean, the Giants were, 60 minutes away from being in the NFC Championship game. So that definitely should be the bar for the Giants. I wouldn't say or bust, because if the Giants have a good regular season, there's a ton of different ways that this could unfold. If you guys get unlucky and end up facing the Eagles early again or something like that. But either way, I agree with you. I agree with you. The Giants are a well-coached team. They have a lot of talent, and the goal at minimum should be the championship game this year. So totally with you on that. Definitely, like we said, loved what we saw out of Daniel Jones. And I wanted to get your opinion on these guys too, Dan. There are a couple of guys that really stood out to me from the Giants' perspectives. Two wide receivers, Isiah Hodgins, who really looked good at the end of last year when the Giants were down. The young Jalin Hyatt, a draft pick from this season, and their newest acquisition as a big offensive piece, Darren Waller, tight end they got from Oakland. All of them looked really good. Hyatt caught a touchdown. Darren Waller looked like his old self. As long as he stays healthy, the Giants are going to be in really good shape this year. What was your impression of the Giants offense in this game? Because obviously the second half, it kind of got shut down. It was all the backups that aren't even going to be on the roster. But when the Giants roster guys were on the field, they looked damn good.
I feel like our offense looks like we're clicking. I feel like the offense looks like it's going to be a major strength of this team. I feel what's going to be the big thing is going to be the defense and how we handle. We got to figure out how to beat some tough teams we're going to be facing during the year, including the dreaded Eagles. And right off the bat, it's going to be a very intense game. We're facing the Cowboys week 1. It's going to be a bloodbath week 1.
No doubt about it, man. I mean, both of our teams are thrown right in the fire. As soon as the regular season starts, the Giants and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, the Jets and the Bills on Monday Night Football. So it's really coming out, going through the ringer as soon as the first shot of the season is coming to pass. And that's one thing that really could be a good thing for the Jets and the Giants. I mean, the NFL preseason is so weird now. I mean, the Jets had, in my opinion, a little bit more of a normal one this year because they actually got to play 4 preseason games. But like, even just looking at the Giants schedule, I mean, this is what most NFL teams are doing this year. And it's like, okay, you come to camp around July 25th. You don't play your first game until August 8th or 9th or 10th, right around there. And then by August 25th, you're playing your last game. So in the span of 3 weeks, you're playing 3 games and then it's over. And then after that last game, you have another 2 weeks until you start the regular season. It's really crazy to me how they have the schedule formatted now. What do you think about this weird preseason schedule now?
I kind of have question marks about it, whether how much readiness these teams are going to be ready for the preseason. At the same time, I understand maybe it's for the better because we've seen players get injured and stuff. I feel like football is the more most likely to see players being injured, getting ready for the season more than any other sport. It seems like.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, the football injuries, come out of nowhere, and seemingly like the Jets are dealing with a offensive line injury right now, where Joe Tippmann, their second round center, who they took and had really high hopes for, has a mystery injury that nobody really knows how he got. People were looking on the game film and trying to pinpoint what they thought could have happened. Nobody really knows, but apparently he's going to be okay and should be ready by the time week 1 rolls around. But unfortunately, it looks like this kind of cost him the opportunity to grab that number 1 center spot right off the bat. But
Exactly.
Another
thing I think, plus I could say, if you've ever seen an NFL team practice up close, it's the most rough practice you've ever seen in sports.
Oh yeah, you got that right, man. I mean, just even on the real quick on the latest episode of Hard Knocks, there was a lot of that stuff. Just what you're talking about. You said the Jets and the Buccaneers fighting back and forth, man. I mean, it's a really good thing. I heard a lot of people complaining about Robert Saleh canceling the second day of practice between the Jets and the Buccaneers last week, but I think Saleh did the right thing because those teams only played each other for 1 day last week, and there's about 10 fights that broke out. I mean, at one point you saw one of the coaches saying, "Hey, are we here to fight or are we here to practice?" Because there was so many fights going out. Even Zach Wilson was talking about how he can't keep track of who got into a fight this time because it was happening so often. And there was one altercation that they had to remove Sauce Gardner from. And hey, Sauce, I love you, but stay away from those big guys fighting. I don't want to see you get hurt. Just like we were talking about, especially in the preseason, it's so easy to get injured. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've even heard from people who have played football, like high school, college, how rough it is to practice alone. So
Yeah, it's true, man. It's absolutely true. And one more thing before we moved on from football here is I did want to ask your opinion on this because former Patriots and Buccaneers tight end Rob Gronkowski actually came out the other day. He was on I forget, he was on some kind of podcast or something like that, and he was asked, is there any coach currently in the NFL that could get you to come out of retirement? The coach that he said was New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll. That's a pretty nice compliment from, really one of the all-time great tight ends in the NFL, Dan, right? That's got to be something that you like hearing, even though it doesn't seem like he's ever going to be a Giant, because I think he's going to stay retired. That shows the high regard that he, and I'm sure many other NFL players, hold for the Giants head coach Brian Daboll.
I feel based on that, what I'm hearing from Gronkowski, that is big news, I feel like, for the future of the Giants, especially if Daboll is around, the longer he's around, because that is something you want. You want the best players to want to play here. It's
exactly. If he could almost make it a destination.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing. So it's kind of news to hear me smile about when you hear a guy, even though he's retired, a star player is kind of saying that might be a trickle down effect.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And so just to keep it moving along here now, I definitely wanted to hear your opinion on that, though. So, but yeah, to keep it moving on to baseball right now, and let's, I understand everybody. We, the baseball season has not gone the way that us New Yorkers would have liked so far this year. Definitely not. But, we'll start with the Mets. And the Mets are showing a little bit more life lately. I'll give them that. There's still basically no chance they make the playoffs. But, 59-68, 7 games back of the wild card spot. They're not buried. The odds are they're not going to be in the playoffs. But we can't sit here and say, let's be honest, Dan. As Met fans, on August 23rd, we've seen the Mets in much worse situations than this one right now, right?
Yeah, At the same time, I know it's a very slim chance, and they might probably not make it. I just have a bad feeling it's going to be 2019 without, like, somewhere close to the season we fall out of it. Only without a lot of the top talented pitching we had in 2019. I mean, we had that was like the last. Remember, that was like the last year that Syndergaard was good before.
Yep.
It's like after he left the Mets, it hasn't gone so well. It's like we had that Cy Young season from Jacob DeGrom.
Yeah, yeah. All the guys were good that year. You're right.
Yeah. That was like, I mean, it was just like a different kind of team. But I just feel like this team, there's just some momentum. I feel like they're missing a couple of pieces to really get over that hump.
Yeah, this Mets team is missing a lot right now. I agree.
Yeah, I feel like it's like Baltimore when they jumped the gun too early, traded some of their best players, and they were kind of close to it, but didn't quite have that talent to get over that hump. Somehow they did. I feel like that's what's happening now. The good thing is that maybe does give the Mets momentum into next year. Maybe even impressing some free agents, showing that maybe this team looks like they can be a contending team. Because I feel like right now it's kind of more trying to show what we got for next year. I feel like it's like a momentum carrying thing into next year. I feel like the rest of the season is.
Well, let's hope so, man. Let's hope so. I definitely hope there's some truth to that. But to be honest, my hopes really aren't that high. I think that this last 6 weeks or whatever of the season is going to be pretty painful. I think the last week or so that we've seen them play better is just kind of an anomaly, and it'll go away eventually. But hey, I would like to see them play better down the stretch, like you said. But to be honest, for draft purposes, more than all, the more they lose, the better.
Yeah, that's true. Even though it's kind of baseball's like kind of weird with the draft, like unlike the NFL and NBA and even the draft is like really a crapshoot because you see lower picks sometimes have more success than the higher picks. It's really a crapshoot, the baseball with their draft. So I can't. You don't see these guys really have an impact. Another thing I have to say regarding the rest of the season, I don't get why they haven't called up Ronnie. I feel like right now is a good chance to get a feel for what we got next year. What we got in this prospect, Ronnie Mauricio. Should we could show him off at maybe second base, maybe on the outfield. We need to see what we got, and I feel like he's already accomplished. It's at the point where he's done everything he could do in the minors. Now it's time to go there, break the ice, get your feet wet. This way, he's not going into next year, I guess, cold already in the major leagues. Have him go into next year with some experience in the majors.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like there's a few guys down in AAA right now who should be up here at the major league level, because let's be honest, the last 6 weeks of the season doesn't matter. You're 100% right. It's about seeing what we have next year. Now, I understand that Brett Beatty struggled for a lot of the last 2 or 3 months, whatever, and his numbers weren't that great. But what does it matter if he goes down into AAA and kills it again? And he is killing it. He's hammering the ball. You have to have him up here at the major league level figuring things out. Just like the Yankees have had Anthony Volpe up here for the whole season pretty much. And his numbers have not been pretty at times, but the Yankees have stuck with him and kept him in there. And I think the Mets should be doing the same thing with Brett Beatty. I don't want to see Beatty in the minor leagues anymore. He has nothing to prove down there.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing, I feel like Beatty shouldn't be riding the bench if he's going to get called up this time. He should not be riding a bench. I feel that's a mistake they are making on their part. This guy has got to. I feel like has kind of got to have to break the ice, and he's really only going to really break the ice if he gets those reps at in several games at third and in the starting lineup.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And you know what? The same thing, I agree with you about that. The same thing with Francisco Alvarez. You know, I was reading some of the Mets Beats guys were talking about how the Mets were going to be slowing down Francisco Alvarez, and they were going to be giving him a lot more off days and playing Omar Narvaez more. Why are we going to sit here and see Omar Narvaez? I got nothing against him. He's a decent major league player, but he's not the future of the Mets. I want to see more of Francisco Alvarez. Play the guy. He's 21 years old. What do you think they like? I don't understand what the Mets think. What do you think that they're going to burn him out for next year? You know what I mean? He's got the whole off season.
Yeah, exactly. I feel they need to get him at bats, and on the days he's not catching, he needs to be DHing.
Yeah, get him as many at bats right now as a 21-year-old as possible, because that's only going to help him. Same thing with Brett Beatty, you know, like we just discussed, especially even more so with Mark Vientos on the DL now. So, you know, now we're sitting here and they're running these guys like Ortega and Aruz out there. These guys have no future for the Mets. You know, get rid of them. Bring up the two guys we just mentioned. Bring up Ronnie Mauricio. Let's see these young guys, because it's time. It's time. I mean, we already know you traded away Scherzer and Verlander. So the time should have been a month ago when they did that. But for whatever reason, they're, you know, doing this, and I don't agree with it. And hopefully whatever they're doing right now is the correct move. But I don't know. I don't like what I see. And speaking of that, Dan, I saw another report that I didn't like. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently the Mets had Pete Alonso at the center of trade talks with Milwaukee right before the trade deadline. Now, this was just being reported a couple of hours ago by all the big news networks, all the newspapers around here, that the Mets were actively shopping Pete Alonso. Now, the Mets came back and combated the report by saying that nothing was ever close. Well, I'm sorry. And look, I guess you have to kind of listen on everybody. But Pete Alonso is one of those guys that the fact that the Mets even were shopping this guy absolutely disgusts me. What are you going to get back for Pete Alonso that is going to be better than the actual guy, Pete Alonso, that you have now? He's 27, 28 years old, whatever he is. He's ready to be paid. Pay the man. You drafted him. You developed this guy. He broke records. He won home run derbies. He's the first and only Met to ever hit 50. He is legitimately the best power bat the Mets have probably ever had. I mean, from a strictly power perspective. And how the Mets could even have been shopping him angers me, especially when you could almost understand under the Wilpons why they would do it, because the Wilpons don't want to pay him. But under Steve Cohen, that is unacceptable, because nothing you get back for Alonso would have been anything close to what this guy has given you.
Well, first of all, I'm lucky that they didn't go through with this. Now comes the other point. Going to next year, sign the guy to an extension. Pay the man. This guy is like, I guess, the core of the team, and I feel like a good example. Unfortunately, I feel weird using the Yankees as an example, but they had a core group of players. Pete Alonso is part of this core group of players. Pay this guy. This is going to be a very key in our success. Maybe then next year and even beyond that. I feel like.
No doubt about it. Pete Alonso could be part of the Mets solution for the next 7 to 10 years, you know?
Yeah, and I'm just hoping, please, Scott Boras, stay the fuck away from Pete, Scott Boras.
Well said. I agree with you on that. So yeah, if you like our opinion and you as Met fans Mr. Cohen and Mr. Epler, if you value our opinions, don't trade Pete. Don't even think of it and pay him. That's what we're telling you. So
Yep. Another thing that you really don't pass up this chance to get another player that could be a game changer in Shohei Ohtani during this offseason. There's reports say that Steve Cohen is gonna go for this. Don't know how well it's gonna pull, but he's at least gonna go for it. He's not gonna just let Shohei Ohtani pass up without a fight. And this, I'm probably gonna pull the trigger on tickets to one of the 3 games this weekend and try to hopefully break out a "We Want Shohei" chant.
Well, I hope that actually ends up happening. But to be honest, my hopes are not very high, especially with all the talk coming out of this trade deadline about how the Mets are not going to be going for the top tier guys this offseason, which once again, just like trading Pete Alonso, if the Mets are not in big time on Shohei Ohtani, unacceptable, complete failure by the Mets and Steve Cohen.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be go after Shohei, and if somehow Shohei is not convinced to come here, they need to still go after what's left. There's no bargain basement because I can't see any way you're going to be able to recruit free agents like this if you're just tanking another year.
Yeah, this is how the Wilpons, used to do it, and we thought that we were past this, but unfortunately we're not. Let's just hope that Steve Cohen and Billy Epler know what they're doing, because right now, my hopes aren't very high. But especially with the talks of them trading Pete Alonso, that really, really annoys me. So let's hope that never comes to fruition. And one thing, however, to keep this rolling on the baseball front, one thing that's actually come to fruition that has not happened since the Ronald Reagan administration is that the Yankees are currently mired and embroiled in the midst of a 9-game losing streak. They have not lost 9 games in a row since 1982. And the Washington Nationals last night dropped them 2-1. When the Nationals are beating you like that, that is just unacceptable for the Yankees. 9-game losing streak. In that, they got swept by the Red Sox. They got swept by the Atlanta Braves. This is just turning into from a bad underachieving season to a complete unmitigated disaster for the New York Yankees. Dan, what is your thoughts on what we're seeing happen over in the Bronx? It's kind of taken the pressure off of us a little bit.
Well, to put it to how far back you have to go to last time the Yankees had that long of a losing streak, it was the same year that yours truly was born.
Very true. Very true. You're right. So the last time that the Yankees lost 9 games in a row, you were just a little baby. I mean, it's crazy to think about, right? I mean, that's how long. I mean, how many times during our lifetimes have we seen the Mets lose 9 games in a row? It's happened more times than we'd like to admit. But for the Yankees, first time in a lifetime, literally.
Yeah, it is. I just have to say, listen, I just want to say to some of you Gen Z Yankee fans that are Generation Z that are used to the Yankees winning your whole lives. Sometimes you didn't experience many years where they didn't make the playoffs and they never had this bad. This actually happens to baseball teams. I need to remind you, this actually happens. You just haven't experienced it yet, but I'm assuming Yankee fans of a certain age, you're experiencing this right now. This actually happens to baseball teams. Just a reminder, it happens, and you just got with it. and you just gotta live with maybe all of a sudden finding yourself not watching baseball. Yankee fans not watching, really wanting to watch baseball in October. What can I say? Maybe it's probably at this point, maybe some of you Yankee fans might want to, maybe a rare time you maybe make other plans, maybe book a vacation in October. Because I know personally, and the same thing would happen next year. But right now, the Mets, right now, our Mets seem to have fallen out of contention, and maybe it kind of seems like a good idea to maybe book a trip this year in October. But other years, like let's say next year pans out well, probably I wouldn't. I would be hesitant. I would still hesitant to book a trip in October. It, but right now, maybe you guys might end up doing the same thing this year, you Yankee fans.
Yeah, Yankee fans are going to have October open for the first time in just about a decade. 2014 was the last time they missed the playoffs. But yeah, it has not been this bad. They have not been under 500 this late in the season since 1992. Longest losing streak since 1982. A lot of bad numbers for the Yankees. And when you look at the numbers, I mean, look, we were just looking at the Mets, and the Yankees are even worse. I mean, the Mets is 7 games out of the final wild card spot. The Yankees, now 60 and 65, are 10 and a half out of the final wild card spot in the American League. So, it's just going from bad to worse for the Yankees. And, Dan, the one thing I really just want to ask, I mean, what is wrong with the Yankees? I wanted to tell you this lineup, right? Because I was looking at it before. I forgot to write it down. So let me just bring it up here real quick. But I wanted to tell you this Yankee lineup. And, I mean, it's not great. It's not like the Yankee lineup that we've seen back in the day. But, I mean, this Yankee lineup should not be rolling over and dying the way that it is. Listen to this. DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Harrison Bader, Anthony Volpe, and then the bottom 3, it does kind of crap out a little bit, but they called up two prospects. One is Higashioka, their catcher, obviously, who's been up. But then Peoria, the left fielder who came up from AAA just today, and Oswaldo Peraza, who's making his return to the club from earlier this year. Both young prospects. The Yankees are now giving a shot that they're pretty much out of it. But, I mean, when you look from that 1 to 6 in that Yankee lineup, now it might not be 2019 version of these guys, but still, there are good hitters in every spot. What happened to this team? I can't believe it.
I just have to say they are really, really underperforming. And I feel one of the weaknesses might be the pitching.
Yeah, but I mean, the Yankees are so much worse than just the pitching. I mean, obviously, their bullpen is not what it used to be either. Clay Holmes has blown games, and they're leaking all over the place. The starting rotation is injured and has holes in it, and anything beyond Garrett Cole is a big question mark. You're definitely right about that. But then you look at a game that they lost like last night to the Washington Nationals. They lost 2-1. You're telling me against that crappy National pitching staff, which, hey, once again, this is not the 2019 Washington Nationals. The Nationals stink. They're not a good team. They have terrible pitching. That Yankee lineup, at least 1 to 6, should knock that pitching staff around. And the fact that they lost 2-1 last night is just unacceptable. But it's a problem that has happened time and time again for the Yankees this year. Every once in a while, they'll wake up and have a big offensive game, but then they'll be mired in an offensive slump for 2 or 3 weeks, and they will not score any runs.
Yeah, I feel like their offense is also. I've never seen such a lifeless off the Yankees in ages.
Yeah.
As that, I mean, we've seen that meme I posted after Met games. I'm upset. You know that little character from Adventure Time, Lemongrab, was saying unacceptable. But pretty much,
Yes.
fans you could use that meme pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're a Yankee fan, I would totally understand why you would think it's unacceptable because, I mean, hey, the Yankees have had some bad luck this year, just like every team. The Yankees have had some injury problems this year, especially on their pitching staff. I mean, let's not forget how much time Rodon's missed. Let's not forget Nestor Cortez has been down. And let's not forget another piece that was expected to contribute this year, Frankie Montas, has not contributed at all, aside from one start against the Mets last year. He has not contributed at all since the Yankees acquired him. So, bad luck, bad injuries, bad team. That's the story of the 2023 New York Yankees. And unfortunately, that's the story of the 2023 New York Mets, too. The injury with Edwin Diaz was something that happened right out of the gate this year. And it seems like it was just a bad omen for this season and bad omen overall for 2023 on a New York baseball front, right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's gonna be two hurdles I'm gonna be clearing. Like, I'm gonna be reading the newspapers, going on various websites all off season long with the Mets, and I feel I'm gonna be so nervous during spring training that no one gets injured, especially our closer.
Yeah. Yeah, as they say, next spring training, just put Edwin Diaz in bubble wrap and don't let anybody get close to him. Just save him for the regular season, right?
Yeah, because that scares me. I just felt like the moment Diaz was injured, I said, like, oh no, of course, same old Mets.
Yep. Unfortunately, it was a bad omen, a sign of
Yeah,
things to come.
only the Mets would this happen to. Oh, right off the bat of the season, we're going into the season no closer.
Yep.
And it was
Thanks to a crappy WBC that doesn't even mean anything.
I got nervous every time we went to the bullpen, I was like, are we gonna win this? Do we have enough bullpen? And it just got worse. And
Yep.
I'm yelling at TV. I don't know how my TV survived half the game here. Hoping next year is finally a year that my TV doesn't have stuff thrown at it. My TV is hoping that I'm not throwing stuff at it. Hopefully, it's me worrying about. Hopefully, I didn't accidentally break anything celebrating a championship. I'm hoping that I know what that's like. And
Well,
hope I
to be honest, if anything gets broken during a championship celebration, it's worth it, right?
don't. I'll be celebrating. I'll be great. Then at the same time, I'll be like, holy shit! I gotta get the funds to replace whatever is broken.
Oh man. Well, let's just hope we have to worry about that.
Exactly. As I said,
Oh,
because when it finally happens, and I feel like the next 2 years, by 2025, the Mets are going to win a World Series, and I don't know how I'm going to react to it.
well, I wish I could agree with you, but honestly, my hopes for the Mets winning a World Series by 2025, based off everything we've heard out of Steve Cohen and Bill Yepler, my hopes are not high. And maybe it's a good thing because usually when my hopes are high for the Mets, they kick me right in the balls. So maybe the fact that my hopes aren't high right now, maybe that's a good thing. But, hey, only time will tell. And as we've been saying all along, let's just hope that we got the right guys making the decisions. But, Dan, I think that's just about going to do it for us today. Before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure, I gotta plug my Twitter account Bobo1003 NYC, Instagram Bobo718DK, and YouTube is it one word Daniel Curlin. Also, if you're looking for Sunday's Met game on TV, I hope you know how to use Peacock. If you have this, how to use it. I just feel
That's
like if
true.
grandmother is going to be complaining why she can't find the Mets game on TV.
Well, at this point, if she can't watch it, they're probably doing her a favor. So, it looks like, Sunday's game will be on Peacock. So good call by that, Dan, just in case you're a Mets fan and you're wondering where the hell they are. It's also, I believe it's a 12 o'clock start that day, right?
Yeah, it's a 12 o'clock 12 o'clock start. Don't know yet who's going to be calling this game, because I know Peacock, they kind of have one announcer that does all the games, and they got two other announcers that are linked to the two teams, usually in the booth. So we won't know that until that game on Sunday.
Okay. Well, at the very least, we'll know that Wayne Randazzo is in the ballpark, because he's going to be calling on the TV for the Angels. So all the best to Wayne. We definitely miss him here. Our radio booth could definitely use him. Hey, so definitely make sure to check out Dan. And I'm going to do what I can to post a link to the show that Dan did with Mike Bichetti on Compound Media, but I don't know if they posted it on YouTube. So if they did, I'll include the link. If they didn't, I'll include the link to Compound Media. So just do yourself a favor, and if you haven't yet, go to compoundmedia.com and subscribe there. It's only $8.99 a month, and you can check out all the shows that have had Dan on there. He's got many of them on there. He's been on Anthony's show. He's been on the old Eastside Dave show. He's done his show, a couple of them now with Mike Bichetti. So please do yourself a favor and check that out. If you'd like to follow me, you can check me out on Twitter at my last name, Cramer NY. You can check out the show at BSith_podcast on Twitter and Best Seat in the House podcast on Instagram. Don't forget that if you like the show, give us a like and a subscribe on either YouTube or Rumble. We appreciate it. And thank you once again, everybody, for sticking around and watching the show. Episode 77 is now in the books. So for Best Seat in the House podcast, I'm Rob Cramer, and this is my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin, and we'll catch you next week, everybody.